Hey, and welcome back to Vietnam Talk. So, it's your first time here, or you never met me, you don't know me? Well, my name is Brian Nhut. I'm a director and the founder of Father Founded. So, we are back, and today we had an interview with a very interesting person. He's a Vietnam veteran, and his name is Ed Correa. Ed is born in Ed or Eddie. He's from the Bronx, New York City. And Eddie came to Vietnam in 1971, February. He actually went to serve in Nhut Air Base, or after the war renamed Nhut Airport, or today Saigon Airport. And during that time, he met a local woman, and he was allowed to went out with her. And yeah, what happened when he stayed with her? She got pregnant, and he fathered a child in Vietnam. And the woman, she had already had 3 children before. Ed, he went back to the U.S. in 1972, and he always wondering what happened to his child in Vietnam. And in 2001, he went back to Vietnam trying to look for his child and for the mother and for the rest of the family. And he didn't find what he was looking for, so he actually contacted Father Founded, hope that he will be able to some way help him to locate his lost family. So yeah, Ed, he did all what he had to do, all the DNA tests, everything, and really nothing happened. So the only way I believe we can help Ed is like giving his story and share his story and have Ed have his final word. And Ed, it's better you tell the story and tell the name of the woman, tell the name of your child and all the information, because that makes more sense. So everybody, please welcome Ed and let's have Ed here. I hope I pronounce your last name right. And
That's
Ed, he is a Vietnam veteran who came here to ask Father Founders for help in locating his child in Vietnam. So Ed, I prefer you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're living, where you're born, about your life. So Ed, bring it on.
Hey, my name is Edmund Correa. I was born in New York City, raised in the Bronx. At the age of 18, I enlisted in the Air Force. I now am retired from the United States government and live in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Uh,
So Ed, we all want to know about Vietnam. How come you end up in Vietnam?
I volunteered.
You volunteer. And how old were you when you went to Vietnam?
21.
21. And so, how was your image about Vietnam? I mean, that time Vietnam was more than just a war movie.
Oh, I had no qualms about going to Vietnam, and I just went and did my job. I didn't have any preconceived ideas of what it would be like.
Did you know anybody who went to Vietnam before you go?
One of my coworkers where I was stationed just got back from Vietnam.
Uh, so you hear stories about what happened in Vietnam during the war before you came there.
A little bit, but not much.
Okay. So tell me, how come you end up in Tran Thi Air Base? I mean, that's most for Air Force people.
I'm Air Force. I worked in the Air Force, and that was where they sent me.
All right. I've been to Saigon many times. Tan ended up in Tan after the fall of Saigon. Today it's called the Saigon Airport. And around that airbase during the war, they had a lot of bars and restaurants. They had a place called Plantation Roads and Tudor Streets. And can you tell me a little things about how was your image when you came to Vietnam? I mean, It's probably very different from where you grew up and you lived before.
Well, I was already 4 years living in the Orient already. I was in Korea, Japan, Okinawa
Wow.
before I went to Vietnam, and Trudeau Street and Plantation Row. I just went by them. I didn't go to any of the bars. I went
Mm.
to eat at restaurants, and that was it. Um, Other than that, I just didn't make myself at home in that area like a lot of GIs did.
Mm. So you didn't, I mean, you basically you spend your time in the air base and the few places and then that's it.
Yeah,
All right. So, I mean, you came to a far family for a reason, right? You didn't came just to chat and talk, even it's nice talking to you. And you're looking for somebody. Tell me that story about the woman and about the child you're looking for.
my my boss took me to his house with
Mm.
his girlfriend's house and
Mm-hmm.
for dinner, and his girlfriend introduced me to her.
But how was your first meeting? I mean, what I know about Vietnam, it can be difficult doing the language. You speak English, you speak Vietnamese, and I guess your Vietnamese is like mine, non-existent, and
No,
many Viet.
very little existed. She's spoke English a little bit.
Alright. And you mentioned to me she had three other children from previous
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah, yeah, that's true. She had
Wow.
three.
Wow. And she gave birth to your fourth child, right?
Yes.
Wow. And how did you find out she was pregnant? I mean, during the time you was in Vietnam or after you came home?
Oh no, during the time I was there.
And you never had a chance to get any photos, anything about the child.
I had a photo, but I sent that to an office in Thailand at the American Embassy,
Hmm.
and with some paperwork, and that was the last I've ever had of the photo. I only had one photo, which I sent. Should have sent a copy,
Hmm.
but that was a mistake.
But when was the last time you had been in touch with the woman in Vietnam?
September, October, October of '72.
Wow. Well, it's interesting because when you send the information for me, you had so much information about about your spouse and about three children, and it's really amazing because you had those old records and those information. A lot of GIs only had nicknames or sound like names or fake names or phony names. I mean, it
You're
seems
right.
like you had a whole family book with you.
Yeah, because I I, I got to know them.
Mm, that's true. And you knew her family too? I mean, did she have any parents, siblings, something like
Uh,
that?
she had a mother, but I never knew her name.
Right. And did you have any idea they came from Saigon or they came from the Delta or from the
No,
North? Do you have any?
to my knowledge, they lived in Yarden.
Mm, okay, so you don't think they live in that address or that area
Yeah,
before
they
the
lived in
war?
Yarden her whole life. I believe they lived in Saigon their whole life. Yes, her
Oh,
whole life.
wow. Wow. And tell me a little bit more about what you did together, because many times when I ask TIs, mostly they know the woman from the bars or the restaurants, or I mean, it seems like you have more different way of being together.
We went sightseeing. She showed me Vung Tau.
Mm, beautiful
Uh,
place.
yeah, and that's and went to movies and
Hmm.
restaurants, and that was it. Shopping. That was all.
Wow. So how do
Took,
you feel about Vietnam during the time? I mean, you had a relationship. I mean, you went to for the war. You didn't went for like a tourist like everybody else doing today. You went there during the war, and you fell in love with a Vietnamese woman. And how do you feel about Vietnam during that time?
I enjoyed Vietnam, even though it was a war.
Hmm.
strange, but everywhere I go, I liked it, regardless of what was happening. So,
But did you have any encounter with the war? I mean, it sounds like most of the people I met who served in Tran Thi Bong didn't really have, the only thing they saw about the war were airplanes came back damaged or wounded soldiers, but they never really have any feeling of the war because basically this airbase was very protected from the rest of the world.
yeah, not much happened.
So when was the last time you've been in touch really with her? I mean, did you communicate with letters or anything, or just like this?
That one, I sent an answer to a letter and never got a reply.
Mm. So so actually you finished your tour of duty. You went back to the U.S. and did you ever tell anybody in the U.S. about her, about the relationship, having a child with her, or just your own secret?
Oh, mm, yes, I did. Yes and no.
And how was the people's reaction to it? I mean, a lot of Americans didn't like the war. It's highly unpopular, and I mean, nobody want to hear about your stories because people just want to forget about it.
No, there was no problem. Nobody was angry.
Mm. And when the final day you go back to the U.S., how did you felt? I mean, you being with her, and you're going home, and probably a lot of the GIs were happy to take the freedom bird back to the U.S., but probably for you it's kind of different.
Uh, just hopeful, apprehensive. Wished I could been there a little longer. That's all.
You never tried to come back to Vietnam, and during that time, some military guys they try to re-enter in the army or military contract workers.
I was sent to another country too. So I couldn't go back.
All right, it makes good sense. It makes good sense. But you want to go back if that during that time, if you're able to do it.
Yes.
Because I hear that from some other fellow GIs that when they stay in Saigon, they had access to the PX, and the money they make had more value than in the US. And if they didn't spend the time in the war zone, they actually have a good time in Vietnam.
Uh, yes and no. Was you could say you have a good time, bad time. I just had a regular time. Did my
Mm,
job.
that's true. So you went back to fly home to the US and you tried to move on with your life. Tell me about that. How was it to move on after the war?
Oh, I just stayed with with my life. I didn't do anything different. I just stayed in the military.
Mm. And what year you were retired from the military?
1986.
So you've been in the military for how many years?
20 years.
Wow. So I guess you're kind of a veteran that way.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell me, you came back to the US and you still, in your mind, you still remember your woman, your child, and how did you try to look for them after the war? I mean, you had 1975. It was kind of impossible to find somebody when the fall of Saigon and everything happening. How did you try to look for them after?
1984. I can't. There was a group that was going over there.
Hmm.
From Georgia, a church group. The church
Hmm.
group. I gave them a map of everything where the person lived,
Yes.
and they did go there. They did found the house, but the
Hmm.
family wasn't there, and that's
All
what
right.
they told me. And they never got back with me after that.
Wow. I can imagine. I mean, there's something because I've been doing several of this kind of searches for Vietnam veterans. So we come to the house and they've been told that maybe the people moved away after 75, or maybe they have been arrested or relocated, or maybe they had escaped to the U.S. or France or who know what. I mean, a lot of rumors and gossips, and nobody really know what is up and down and true. And I mean, everything can happen.
Yeah.
So you actually went back to Vietnam, right?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell me that story? When you went back and how and what happening?
Oh, I was in Korea working, and my wife said, we saw an advertisement to go to visit Vietnam. She said, let's go Vietnam. Show me where you were. And so my wife and I went to Vietnam, and flying into Vietnam brought back some memories, but it wasn't bad memories, it wasn't pleasant memories, apprehension a little bit.
Mm,
Uh, I had a mission, and she knew what that mission was. And as I've told you, I went, found the house, but no one was there.
mm, can you
Then
imagine?
I played a hunch, and as what I've told you about the hunch, I went
Mm,
to a Korean vocational training area, and lo and behold, found the the older brother,
mm,
and through their help, he came to the hotel where I stayed,
mm,
and we were talking, and then I said, he says, I'll go home and bring a picture, and he never came back. He came with his
mm.
wife,
I know
and
it's
then
changed.
yeah, he
Wow.
called in the morning and said, I'm sorry, I got afraid. So I left it
Okay.
like that.
I know it's difficult. But how did you feel when you came back to the Saigon, back to the old airport? I mean, you used to work in there, and now it turned out to be a airport.
Yeah, it was just as I said, apprehension, seeing the old place where I was. In fact, I even found where I worked. It was still there.
I mean, I came to Vietnam first time '92 when I was in the old airport, still airport. But that time it really looked like it had been left after 1975 with the old airplanes and the concrete outside when they protect the airplanes and everything looked old and demolished. I mean, some way I can imagine how it looked like during the war, just not only from the photos and from the films, but I mean, I guess it's the same feeling you had.
Oh yeah, it didn't change much. They did a lot of changes around the base, but it didn't change much in 2001. Things that were there that I remember were no longer there. Uh, the French cemetery that used to be near the base became now the site of the Ho Chi Minh Convention Center.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
that's
I know
nothing.
where it is.
Yeah, and so that was one of the few changes.
Wow, but still the same noise and the same traffic.
Yeah, the Buddhist temple that I visited down off the base, the big Buddhist temple there is still there.
Wow.
The church that was beside the old American embassy is still there.
Oh yeah, the big cathedral.
Well, the cathedral on one side, but on the other side there was a small church.
I can't remember that honestly, but I remember the big Phin cathedral. And when I came to Vietnam first time, they had the old American embassy, and we actually tried to get on the roof and try to bribe somebody because that time the place belonged to a Vietnamese oil company. And they wouldn't accept the bribe, and it was so close. We can get on the roof and to take a look how it looked like when the final helicopter took off the 30th of April, '75. And
Yeah,
later they took down the embassy and built a smaller U.S. consulate.
yeah, across the street, in the middle of
Ah,
in the boulevard, in the middle of the boulevard, one side, the other side, then that whole panorama with the trees.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. So how did you? I mean, I always ask this question. Sometimes people don't like to answer it, and I do respect that. And sometimes people have answered from the heart. How did you feel on the April of 1975? Because I mean, for you who served in Vietnam, for you who left behind family, it's quite different from anybody else who just saw on a movie or on a film.
I was in England at that time when that
Wow.
happened. So angry, disgusted,
Mm,
and saying it should not have happened.
mm,
Uh, didn't keep the U.S. didn't keep a promise. Uh, so there were a lot of things.
mm, mm. So how do you think about Vietnam today?
Well, I like to go back and visit again sometime.
Mm. And for you, like you told me that you have been doing a lot of things, trying to locate your family, and I respect you for that because not everybody's like you. Did you ever do any DNA tests?
Yes, I did. As I said to you, the DNA has been put in. I've Ancestry, 23andMe, FTDNA.
Good, good. And so far, it had been no response at all.
No.
Mm. And but I know it's like for me and for Father found it, I really appreciate you give us this time and share your story. And our idea is to have your story on YouTube, and we have it translated in Vietnamese, at least what not in what it say, but with subtitles or more things like that, and hopefully reach out to the Vietnamese community in Vietnam and the US and because and that way we had hope that somebody who can help us, somebody remember your loved ones, and maybe spread the word because sometimes it's not everybody who will be DNA tested, not all, and you never know what you're looking for before you find it, and it's some of the way to find people.
Yeah.
So, Ed, do you have any final things you want to say today? I mean, about you, about your search, about what we're doing, and to
Oh
other Vietnam
no.
veterans, encouragement, anything like that?
Oh no. I'm happy you're able to help me. This is the last try.
Yeah. Ed, I really appreciate you took your time with us, with me, and we'll do our best and wouldn't leave you down.
Okay. You have a good day. As say,
Thank you
you
very
should have a
much.
good evening.
Thank you
I-
very much and appreciate it.
You're welcome, Brian. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.